fight. It keeps a brother in a subjection. But maybe pressure will make Joanna see how everybody could live us one. Oh, give me hope, Joanna. Hope, Joanna, give me hope, Joanna, for the morning come. Give me hope, Joanna, give me hope, Joanna, hope before the morning come.
I hear she make all that golden money to buy the weapon in the shape of guns, while every mother in a black Soweto fears the killing of another son.
Come on!
Speaking across all the neighbors' borders, now and again having little fun.
We know.
She doesn't care if the fallen game she plays is dangerous to everyone.
Oh, give me hope, Joanna. Hope, Joanna, give me hope, Joanna, for the morning come. Give me hope, Joanna. Hope, Joanna, hope before the morning come.
She got supporters in higher places who turn their heads to the city sun. Joanna give them the fancy money, oh, to tempt anyone who comes. She even knows how to swing opinion.
Come on!
In all a magazine and a journal.
Oh my God.
For every bad move that our Joanna makes, good explanation.
Oh, give me hope, Joanna. Give me hope, Joanna. Give me hope, Joanna, for the morning come. Give me hope, Joanna. Hope, Joanna, hope before the morning comes. Yeah. Even the preacher who works for Jesus, the archbishop who's a peaceful man, together say that the freedom fighters will overcome the very strong. I wanna know if you're blind, Joanna, if you wanna hear the sound of drum. Can't you see that the tide is turning? Oh, don't make me wait till the morning comes. Oh, give me hope, Joanna. Hope, Joanna, give me hope, Joanna, for the morning come. Give me hope, Joanna. Hope, Joanna, hope before the morning comes. Well, Joanna, she runs the country. She runs in Durban and the Transvaal. She makes a few of her people happy. Oh, she don't care about the rest of all. She got a system they call up. Relax! I'm gonna sing with you, all right? Relax, relax, relax. Everybody all right? Everybody over here all right? Everybody out front all right? Well then everybody in the back is all right? Well, we're all gonna sing together tonight for Madiba. He couldn't come on down up front. He's in the back. And I'm sure he's gonna be singing with us now. I wanna hear you. Gently, 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 gently. Well, Joanna, she runs the country. She runs. I didn't hear any damn thing from that lot over there. Just relax yourself. I just know you're gonna do it better on this side. She runs in Durban and Lee. She makes a few of her people happy. Oh, she don't care about it. That's better. She got a system they call. No! It was never like that. Let's go again on that line. She got a system they call. We know it's gone, but we gotta make it go even further. One more time. She got a system they call. It keeps a brother in a subjection, but
welcome to Ikemba Youth Program on Reparations, a program brought to you by the Ministry of Social Cohesion. This evening in studio, we have a very, very exciting blend, a blend of experience and youth. Who are we talking about as it relates to experience in youth? Who do we have with us? We have an icon, a musical icon, and not just a musical icon, but the things he did with his music is amazing. I'm sure a lot of people do not understand the relevance of the music, the impact and the history in the music. We have with us Mr. Eddie Grant. Welcome to Ikemba, Mr. Grant.
Thanks for having me in here with yourselves.
And no strange face to Ikemba, of course, or President. And I think he's been on almost every single show from the beginning, with maybe the exception of one or two shows. Mr. Kibwe Copeland.
Pleasure again, always.
All right. Mr. Grant, your performance in London for Nelson Mandela's 90th birthday celebration. What did he say to you after that performance?
He was tired. No, he wasn't that well. And he was backstage while I was performing. When we finished, we just got him, put him in a cab and drove him out.
But the song, Give Me Hope, Joanna, it touched on some really critical issues as it relates to apartheid in South Africa. Even the involvement of, or the lack thereof, of involvement of the international community. So it touched on some really big issues. Did you foresee when writing it that it would have been as big as a hit as it is today? What were your intentions for it?
I was writing songs about social situations in different African countries and different kinds of environments and such things for a long time. And it was really no surprise to me when the song appeared, because I'm always in that mode to accept and then to regurgitate whatever comes. I'd written songs like Preaching Genocide, which also was about Southern Africa's situation at that time. So when Give Me Hope, Joanna came along, it was just a question of how I was going to handle it, how I was going to promote it, if you like. I was on tour for a while, and I saw how the people were reacting to it, and then I got the impression that it was only a question of time. I mean, Britain wasn't particularly anti-apartheid, neither was the United States, but we caught Britain, we caught Europe, we caught the rest of the world, but we didn't catch America. America, it was banned.
All right. In Cape Town, because you're just saying that you have always been writing these types of songs, touching on social issues. You have another song, The Struggle, and you performed it in Cape Town. We have a clip which we're going to go to now. But before we go to the clip, you reference you reference a lot of persons of African heritage, leaders such as Marcus Garvey, Biko, and the likes of a whole other range of leaders in South Africa who fought against apartheid. What has attracted you towards these leaders? What about their work has attracted you towards them, specifically Garvey?
Oh, Garvey was the alpha and omega of the black struggle, and that struggle has been going on for a very long time, and it continues till today. And there are no Garveys around. There's no significant cultural leader that ranks in the realm of Marcus Garvey. It was the last time that Africans found themselves with a philosophy and ideology about themselves. And here was a man who, at a time when people were just out of slavery, owning ships, and had the kind of vision that would restore the black man's pride, even to the point that maybe we would have been able to find our way back. But today, there is no way back. It is just a dream, and somehow we have to call on the melanin and the genes of our foreparents to be able to satisfy that inner craving for repatriation, if you like.
But do you think there's still space in the arena, especially as it relates to reparation, to start a movement like Garvey started, and your UNIA, United Negroes Improvement Association, as it relates to bringing persons of African heritage together, not only for cultural, not only to repair culturally, but economically as well, because one of Garvey's things was the Black Star Line.
Correct. You have to remember that what was bad in Garvey's time has been inflated today. There are many more ways and means of entrapment for the African mind. I make a prediction. There will come a time when guys like yourself and younger will be encouraged to believe that there is no reason to fight anymore. The cultural fight, the fight to reinstate black pride, and all the things that you may read in some book or the other. There will come a time when others will encourage you to believe that there is no point. And they will be able to, because they would have educated you, they will be able to convince you by what is called sound, solid logic, that you are out of time and you are out of place if you do X. Well, I'm here to tell you that, to alert you that that is coming. Now, ultimately, you, yourself, myself, will be gone from the stage. If you leave nothing, now you can look at that program, you can say, oh, this guy Eddie Grant did this, and what he did. If you leave the stage without making that pronouncement or that mark, then you create confusion. It is important that the youth, whoever you are, coming, be culturally sound, because there is a need for that. When you don't become culturally sound, when you don't understand who or what you are, when you don't understand the trials and tribulations of your people, you can't represent them. So your people become a negative issue. And nobody wants to be a negative issue. Ask the Chinese if they want to be negative issues. They fought a massive fight. And when the rest of the world was laughing at Chairman Mao and all the others who came before him, they knew that they were becoming more and more culturally sound. Until today, they can dominate the world. They're an empirical force. So there are people, other people, who understand that. The only people who don't understand that, it's us, the people darker than blue.
Kibwe, I want to bring you in now, because a large part of what Ikemba does as a part of your mandate is to self-repair. And you speak a lot, and I hear you speak a lot about culture and the importance of culture and the importance of culture and youth and education and all of these things. And we held Sankofa, where we tried to do the whole thing. You call it not, what do you call it? Edutainment. Good. Where you try to sell the culture in repackage it for youth, right? How important do you see all of this in the work Ikemba is doing?
That's a good question. And when we started Sankofa, the intention, of course, was to readdress the way that we teach young people and the way that we, of course, disseminate the information, bringing back the same culture, but of course through the arts, as Eddie Grant would bring to the guitar and his music. Some person did it with poetry, some person did it with dance. Now, what happened, what I could say what is happening is that we have the present day culture. The culture is changing and changing and changing. But for most, when it comes to people of African descent, the culture is not changing, but we're just gravitating to everybody else's culture. You know, if you're not aware of your culture or the depths of your culture, basically what you're going to do is look at what everybody else is doing and make a prototype for yourself. So what we would try to address, and one thing that we work hard to do, is try to bring back the ages of our culture, not to go back. Personally, they say, we all want to go back in the days of Africa. Those days are gone, long gone after. But you must understand where you came from. And we always take about to know where you're going. So you must understand your culture from its, I wouldn't want to say primitive, but from that stage, to know how you would develop it to this new age and stage. So Sankofa, of course, work to do that, and that's something that we're continuously doing. We don't have all the answers. As you know, we are young people, and we are on that journey of continuous brainstorming, continuous looking at how we can actually engage young people. We still learn much more about our culture, because there's so much that I know, so much I do not know. We have a person like Eddie Grant next to me who will have a wealth of knowledge. Trust me, everything he says, I'm taking it in with a pinch of salt, because these are the kind of engagement that we look forward to when it comes to Ikemba, when it comes to moving this youth, moving young people forward, especially culture. Culture is something we're big on, and we think that once we can understand the culture that we had before, we can implement it now. Of course, look at how we can actually bring it towards or make it acceptable. More than acceptable. We package it, as you said, so that this age, the young people of this age can understand it and feel connected to it.
Right. Mr. Grant, let's go to your clip right now of your performance in Cape Town of the song The Struggles.
I hear we got a brand new president. I hear America have a brand new president. Girls, I hear
brand new president.
I hear America got a
Brand new president.
I hear
Yeah, brand new president.
but nobody knows where Obama come from.
Yeah, brand new president. Yeah, brand
part where you mention all the names like Garvey and so on. But I'm going to ask you live a question Kibba just asked you, which is, what does it feel like looking at yourself, looking at the performance, Eddie Grant in the moment?
It's like me looking at somebody else, because I don't behave like that.
Yeah, but let's go back a bit. Let's go back to the Equals. I don't think many people know that Eddie Grant, but I don't think we go far back to enough to appreciate the Equals and what you did in the Equals just a bit before 1966. You started a band called the Equals. At that time, Guyana was still colonized, and you started this band in the UK.
Yes.
Yourself a Guyanese,
Yes.
2 Jamaicans, and 2 British boys
Correct.
who did not at all look like yourself.
No.
What take me through that experience, from what caused you to start the band, the whole racial inclusion, one of the only racial race, I think it was the first, and the first with immigrants as well. So it was a really, really big thing at that time. Take us through that experience.
Well, first of all, let's go from the end and go back. The Equals were the first band, first group, first boy band in England of its description. They were successful black artists, not boys and not bands in England before. Someone like Emile Ford and the Checkmates, they were a band backing a singer. In our case, we were just a boy band. We played our instruments ourselves and we expressed ourselves. We wrote the songs. I produced the music. I basically controlled the destiny of the band with management, with record company, with agencies. And I was doing that since I was at school. So, it was a touchy issue at the time, because I had to be in school and I had to be on the road. I had to be doing things that people twice my age were finding difficult. Starting the Equals came about as a result of me having made a guitar. That was the first thing, because my father said, listen, I'm not just going to buy you a guitar. A guitar was an expensive thing compared to other things, because it was not a necessary thing to have. So in that way, not like a phone, for example, shouldn't be very expensive, because today everybody's got phones, but not everybody could buy a guitar, not even your father or your mother. So I had that barrier to get over, which was dealing with my father, who saw me as a kid who was going to go to university and become a surgeon. Very difficult. However, once that was kind of overcome, I had a mother that supported me down the line. My father did not necessarily support me being a musician. He knew how hard it was. It was he who said to me, I want you to understand something. There are guys in this country, self-included, who are great players, and they've tried, and they've been trying for years, and England has not accepted them. What makes you think that you would be accepted in the way that a star is accepted? And I said, I don't know, but if they don't have a place for me now, they're going to have to make a place for me. And he thought that was slightly arrogant. Thinking about it right now, it might have been. But the fact is, you're either going to be or you're not going to be. Destiny rules, and you have to pay attention to destiny. I always believe that destiny has something good for me because I work so hard. And if there's one message to younger people in Guyana, it is that nothing comes but by hard work. Hard work. The man who lifts the iron gets the muscles. The man who gets the muscles wins, you know? And so this was the environment in which the Equals was born. I had to, at every juncture, be telling the guys who were with me, don't worry, one day we'll be working for a lot of money. One day we'll be top of the pops. One day we'll be famous, you know, and they were just, you know, because they're all a bit bigger than me, you know. So the issue of how and why and when, it doesn't appear, because at all times I have felt that the Equals were going to be extremely successful.
What are some of the critical factors that you think, because you mentioned the climate, you said your father said they will not accept you. But what are some of the critical factors that you think cause them to accept you?
Personality. You, it's a weapon you have. It's a tool that you have. A person may not like me, but when I confront them, it is the truth that they're seeing and it's the truth that they're hearing. If I play well and I play as good as everybody else, why are you not going to accept me? If at the end of the day I write as good a song as everybody else, why are you not going to accept me? And so it doesn't matter how prejudiced the situation is, as it was at the time. Here it was, the personalities that were involved. Myself, the Gordon brothers, Pat Lloyd, and John Hall. Our collective personalities made it impossible for people not to like us. Even if we weren't as good as some of the older people, at the end of the day, they knew that we worked harder than everybody else.
What impact did you think, or do you think you had, or on the society at that time?
Oh, tremendous. The Equals were kind of an anomaly. You know, it's you're operating in an environment that, as shown over a period of time, it has no place for you. And so, but you don't pay attention to that. And then you go to the next stage, and you're doing things that the country has never seen young folks do, let alone young black folks. The behavior, the quality of behavior of the band members was like if we were all white. You know, we didn't pay attention to the fact that we were not white. We presumed that everything that was going to come to us was going to come to us because of who we were. We didn't have to change. You know, if you read the things that I have said in song and the things that I've said in interviews, the things that I say tonight, if I upset anybody, I'm sorry, but you know, it is who I am. And there's nothing like consistency in life. Doesn't matter who likes you or don't like you, at the end of the day, you just tell the truth and you cut through it all like a hot knife through butter. That is the bottom line.
You describe yours.
Since we are here and we're talking about youth, and I don't know why people put so much emphasis on youth. I'm young. You know, I mean, honestly, I mean, whatever it is that you're thinking, I'm thinking past you. I'm thinking like a guy who's got 100 years more to go. If I didn't, I would fail. So while I recognize the truth of the truth, I acknowledge not 1 ounce that I will fail because of my lack of youth. Young people come and go. At the end of the day, what it is that young people in this environment and other places have to learn is only one word: discipline. Discipline, the ability to do and to do well and to continue doing. And as long as you have that quality in you, doesn't matter how poor your mother is or how poor your father is, there's always been poor people and they've always overcome. All the great athletes, the great thinkers, they've come out of poor homes. They didn't go killing each other or something like that, you know. At the end of the day, it is a discipline that you're imbued with that will take you over the line.
Let's go to that clip that we have of the Equals.
Mit Respekt von Aretha Franklin und es geht gleich weiter mit Volldampf, die Equals und Police on My Back.
Saw the video, I looked at it again just to recognize which person is Eddie Grant. But I found you.
Yes, yes.
Another interesting fact I think a lot of people do not know: you're an ambassador for Reparations, and you also have an album called Reparations. What sparked your interest in the topic and the issue of reparations?
I have, all through my life, been a voracious reader. I understand how history is dealt with most peoples. And history has been a very interesting passage for me. When I bumped into the heinous way in which Africans have been treated, and recognized that there was no attempt by the world conscience to deal with reparation for the African, it hooked me. And it continues to hook me until today, because it is, in my words, the last unresolved human issue to date. And it's amazing how everybody, even our black selves, have no time for that which belongs to us, or which was done to us, or which has caused the tremendous, what I call the big loss of memory, because talking words that people may or may not understand is one of our problems. We get educated, and so we can't communicate with our people anymore. The massive loss of memory, such a loss, any other group, race, or other, it would have been heralded around the world, and there would have been instant recognition that there has been a terrible wrong. So with that knowledge, and with that feeling, and with that love and care for myself and the people from whom I came, it is only natural that I would be involved in the struggle for reparations. It's absolutely normal. People have done it over time for all other races and kinds and what have you. But it shows you the depth of hate, if you like, within and without. There are some people that can't stand the idea that they've been enslaved. There's nothing wrong. It's been done. Now, let us deal with the result. Everything comes to an end. I mean, within mathematics or whatever it is, there's a result, you know. And here it is, we are standing in the 21st century with a matter that took place so many centuries ago. And still, all the educated people and all the masses and masses of people around the world who feel that they are human or superhuman cannot understand our position. They must understand our position. Let our people know that we have been wronged, not ordinarily. They have taken away our memory. People, they have taken away our memory. It ain't coming back easy. Maybe genealogically, like on a broken tape recorder or a broken hard drive, there might be some way to pull it back. But it ain't within the bounds of our knowledge and reasoning right now. It ain't coming back. What are you going to do about it?
That brings me to another question I have. And the question is based in your album. And I'll throw the question to both you and Kipwe. And that question is, what is the road to reparations? Where do we go from here? We can start with you, Kipwe.
Where do we go from here? Now, I'm listening to Eddie. It's always not just a history lesson, but an awakening whereby he does not only sheds information, but as he said before, truth. And what I admire is that a man would have left Guyana, went abroad, whereby majority of his fans or people were Caucasian. And I'm correct. You know? And today, and not only today, but all of his life, he always championed the fight for people of African descent, with no apologies. And these people have accepted him, even though he said, I'm playing, people of African descent have been wronged. You know? And what we see today, especially when it comes to being a youth and being around young people, is that we not only forget that, but we look past it and see that it has nothing to do with us. And this is something that I've observed, and most persons agree with me, we are the only race that are actually afraid to associate ourselves with being actually an African person. You know, as I've said before in many television programs, that we quick to say we can hear curly, I got the Dublin man, you know, mix, just to shy away from being a person of African descent, because we don't see it as something being nice. And we have to understand, of course, slavery has been how long ago, but the present day effects continue to affect us. It continues to affect us until today. And what we have been doing when it comes from Ikemba is to try to relate to persons how that slavery, that period of enslavement still affects us in this day and age. Things might change, signs might change, people might deal with you differently, but slavery is there. Marcus Garvey passed on a quote that Bob Marley used in his song, mental slavery. Unless we can battle against mental slavery, we'll always be in this position. We'll always be fighting for something but not getting anything. One of the reasons why most persons or most the different races or ethnicities would have gotten the reparations and so forth, because they came together, unified together as one people, and they fought for it. We as persons of African descent, of course, have been separated, and there's many different attempts to continue to separate us, continue to divide us. We have a few persons there talking about this, few persons there talking about this, but there's no collective bond. And education have separated us.
I'm happy you talk about Garvey, because that was one of Garvey's main points.
Yes.
The unity.
The unity, right? And education, of course, they educate us. They educate us from from over 10 years or so. They have our children. They put everything within their minds. You know, they feed us. They tell us what we should eat and what we should not eat. They regenerate our culture to suit, as I think yesterday we were talking at our general's members meeting, that the system was framed against us. So there's so many things against us, and for us to fight against this, it's going to take a level of want. You know, some persons might see it not wanting, but it's hard to see when you don't want it different. You know, if you don't look for something, you mightn't see it. So we as young people, and we as people in the whole of African descent, must want a bit, must want to know what we've lost, what the memory lapse, where is the memory lapse, you know, what are we missing. I think the way forward, of course, is to continue wanting and continue asking questions, continue to question things. Don't say this is reality. I just want a quick point. At one point in time, this was not reality. This was not realistic. At one point in time, equals was nothing realistic. His father told him that. So reality is actually what you make it. And last point, I don't want to go over time, is that I always say something. I believe that 10% of the world created reality and the 90% follows. And we have to stop following and actually start to recreate our reality, because the reality has been shattered.
But before we go to Mr. Grant, sticking with you for another second. Want. We know as youth leaders, sometimes one of the challenges is to mobilize young people. Mm-hmm. They would not come out unless you give them something they want. You can be taking something they need, but unless you're packaging it with something they want, it would be very difficult to get across to them, to get them to come out, to get their attention, to get them to listen. So when you speak about the whole thing mm-hmm. of wants, where do you see young people as it relates to prioritizing what they want and maybe possibly what they should want?
You see, that's a difficult task of trying to deal with people want and what they should want. What we try to push basically is to build a relationship with young people. You see, what happened, most persons go there and say, well, this is the cause that we're fighting for, and people should want to champion it. This is concerning you. You're an African person, so you should want to be a part of the African movement. You should be understanding about reparations. You should want to be a part of the reparation movement. And if you go in that light, even though, you know, you might say that's the best way, of course, it will fail. I always say that we try to build the relationship with people. If you know persons are into football, build a relationship in their base. They're into music, build a relationship with them in their base. If I don't see you on the road just one day and just walk up to you, Shaquille, I have this project I want you to work on. You don't know me, but we should work on it because it's important and you should be a part of it. First thing you ask, well, who is he? What is he talking about? I don't know you. So one of the strongest things to do, I think one of the best ways to get over to young people is to build a relationship. We always want to assume that people want better, or people are broken, or people don't know what they want. But if you don't have a relationship, if you do not know, stop assuming. get to know people, build relationships with them, be truthful with them. And once you build a relationship, of course, me and you are friends. If I could say, Shaquille, you got a thing you want to work on. You're more inclined to listen to me because I'm a friend. You build that relationship with me than to go around saying, well, you should want this, you should need this. Nobody don't have to want what you want. Nobody shouldn't see what you see. I think once you can build a relationship, you know, your brother would listen to you more than a stranger. Your sister would listen to you more than a stranger. Your mother or your spouse would listen to you more than a stranger. Build strong relationships, and then you can move any movement. I think that's the way, that's how I would see it, the best way going forward. Build strong relationships.
The best way going forward, the road to reparations. Build strong relationships, come together, and then we get what we want, a common purpose and a common goal. Mr. Grant.
It's a very complex question, and not one that I believe that I should sit here and tell you or give you. All I can tell you, all I can give you are the things that are basically obvious. The things that are obvious in our particular environment here in Guyana that start with national reparation is the issue of dealing with government. Government have been employed by the people, of which once you're over 18 years old, I think it is in this country, you have a right to vote. So your conversation with government who manage your business has to become one that is sensible and one that gets results. It's like you having a business. There's a business called Guyana, and in that business you have many people playing many parts. So you must be able to speak to the leadership of the country and get a result. Currently, there is the issue of land for the descendants of slaves, enslaved Africans. That, I think, needs resolving, because you, not foreigners, not English or Americans or Japanese or Chinese, you have decided to make one of us empowered through land. If that being the case, then you should be equally as adept at giving us the same benefit. So then you've established a relationship, whether you be youth or older people or whatever it is. You are, first of all, you're an African, are you descendant of an African, and you have a claim. It's like going to court or whatever, and you make your claim. If the claim is just, then there should be a positive result found in favor of you. If you then are able to satisfy yourselves with that, you move on. You've already made the connection. The first connection is at home. Love yourself first. If you can't do that, there is going to be no discussion at an international level. So I would say that the coming together has to be on the national basis, whereby equity, justice is seen to be available at home. Once you can do that, then there are those on the outside who are guilty and who recognize that the force will not stop now. It's on its roll, and it's going to obviously win at some stage of the game. The people always win. Look through history. Doesn't matter how powerful a government body is, or how powerful the king is, or whoever it is, the people always win. So my thing is, in as much as that I can, which is why I'm here tonight sitting with you, younger ones, and saying, hey, first of all, whether you like it or not, whether you know me or not, be disciplined. So out of discipline comes respect. And no one will judge you based on anything else but with respect. And if you can get that far, you can make it to the next stage, which is once they respect you, when you call and say, hi, I'm Eddie Grant, or I'm John Bloggs, or whatever it is, from wherever. You say, oh yes, Mr. Bloggs, how are you? It's all right, I'd like to speak to you. Okay, go ahead. No, I'd like to make a meeting with you. Okay, what date? You've already crossed the first bridge. It's not even about knowing or whatever, caring. It is about respect. And you get respect when you are disciplined.
Love yourself first.
Yes.
Be disciplined. And out of discipline comes respect.
Yes.
Let's go back a bit to a large part of Eddie Grant, a large part of yourself, which is Plaisance.
Oh yes. Now you're talking.
You're currently funding the Eddie Grant Learning and Research Center in Plaisance, and that is to impart a lot of wisdom and a lot of your knowledge on young people in Plaisance, and to assist them with various things. Tell us a little bit about that.
You're looking to embarrass me now. Everybody knows, now everybody around the world knows of my love for Plaisance, because it's the place that gave me life, and it's a place from certainly where half of my family emanate from, and I have stayed as close to Plaisance as I've stayed to my mother. The things that are wrong with Plaisance, I say. There are administrators of Plaisance to whom I speak, and any help that is required that I can give, I give. People in this country in this time have kind of become prostitute-like. In other words, money has become their world and their God. That was when we were poor. Now, what is the excuse for being bought and or being mendicants in the world? We are no longer, as according to the state news and whatever's going on in this country, we are substantially richer, potentially, than we were. Our education surely cannot be such that we teach our children or we intimate to our children that money is their salvation. It will not save us. Whatever is in the ocean and is being taken out that will enrich us economically, it will not make us into better people. Better people come out of better homes, with better teaching, etc. And if it is that, as is always put forward by the leaders of our countries, that education is so important, then how come it is that the teachers have to be walking the streets, whether the weather is good or bad, to encourage the government to have mercy on them and to give them that which they believe they are entitled to? If we are not any longer so poor. But I've always held that we're not poor at all. We just make bad deals. When you make bad deals, you become poor, and then you start to think poor. Our people have gotten into a state of mendicancy where we are proud that our leaders go outside and beg to bring money home for us. That's not good. Our education system, which is always being put forward as the way to go, is the wrong education system. It's Victorian. It doesn't have anything to do with us. It's an inverted story, and yet nobody says it's an inverted story. It is. We are thinking like the English were thinking back in Victorian times. All of our attitudes have become like that, simply because we don't question it. We go to a university and study, and we are told what to think. Crazy. So if the young are coming, I don't want to burden them with that nonsense. I want new systems to be engaged in between those who lead us and those who are to teach us. Teach somehow the teachers so that our pupils can become better educated. First of all, ring bang, first of all to yourself, then to everybody else.
Thank you very much, Mr. Grant. Thank you very much, Mr. Copeland. I wish we can go on. However, sadly, we're out of time, and whenever the opportunity does permit, I do hope that we can have this conversation again. You've been watching Ikemba, a youth program on reparations, and we end by asking you to join Ikemba, of course, and the Guyana Youth Environment Network and other partners on September 15th at the Shell gas station for the International Coastal Cleanup. And for more information, you can contact 601-494. That number again is 601-4194. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good rest of the evening.
I'm gonna sing with you, all right? Relax, relax, relax. Everybody all right? Everybody over here all right? Everybody out front all right? Well then everybody in the back is all right? Well, we're all gonna sing together tonight from Madiba. He couldn't come on down up front. He's at the back. And I'm sure he's going to be singing with us now. I want to hear you. Gently, 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 gently. Well, Joanna, she runs that country. She runs. I didn't hear any damn thing from that lot over there. Just relax yourself. I just know you're gonna do it better on this side. She runs in Durban and Lee. She makes a few of her people happy. Oh, she don't care about it. That's better. She got a system they call. No! It was never like that. Let's go again on that line. She got a system they call. We know it's gone, but we gotta make it go even further. One more time. She got a system they call. came all the way from South Africa. He's a big star there. Give him a big